unhealthy competition. Okay, now we're talking about competition and succession. In ecological succession, before a stable community is reached, that's the climax. Before climax is reached, competition occurs. And how does that happen? When late arrivals, that is, there are first settlers. That's the organism that come into the community first. We are the one that arrive first on this particular location. So we are first settlers. So when another group of organisms come after the first settlers, we call them the late arrivals. So they come to colonize the environment. When they colonize the environment and compete successfully for the limited resources with the first settlers, making better use of the condition in the environment and eventually becoming dominant. As a result, the late arrivals replace the old members because they are more fitted, they are able to outwit them in competing for food for life. So they are more strong and they can dominate. So they become dominant. Then the old members, that is the first settlers, become less adapted because it's no longer conducive for them. Therefore, competition will give rise to succession because they have displaced the early arrival or the first settlers. The late arrivals displaced the first settlers. So we now say there used to be some group of organisms here, but now we have this. So that is succession because competition in a place will lead to succession. That's just the point I'm trying to raise. So it brings about replacement of the old species by new ones. Now we move on to talk about overcrowding. Overcrowding is defined as a situation which occurs when a population in a given habitat increases beyond a point where the resources in the habitation, such as space and food, are not enough to support all the individuals in the population. So when you have a situation whereby the individuals that are occupying a particular place, they are more than the resources that are available, such as food and space, then we say the place is overcrowded. For instance, you have in a normal room, in a regular room, you have 10 people living in that room. The oxygen that is being supplied into that room is not sufficient for all of them. So we say it is overcrowded. Now, population is the total number of organisms of the same species living together in a given area at a particular time. So when you have the same individuals living together, the same species, for instance, like I was giving the example of tomato seedling in the nursery the other time. So the same species of organism living together in a given area at a particular time is called population. So we say it's a population of tomato seedlings because they are the same thing. There is no mixture. You don't have okra among them. So it's the same species. So we say they are population. Then population density is defined as the number of individual organisms per unit area. Number of individual organisms per unit area is called population density. So it is the total population or population size over the area of the habitat. So population size is population density times area of the habitat. So what are the factors that may cause overcrowding? What are the things that can lead to a particular area being overcrowded? First is increase in birth rate, that is natality. For instance, in a particular location, there is 50 rats, let's say 50 rats, and over time they begin to reproduce, and on a monthly basis, like 10 young rats are added to them. So the population is increasing. Before you know it, by the time, if it is 10 new ones that are added to them, 10 young ones that are added to them per month, by the time the population gets to the 5th month, after they started reproducing, then the population is doubled. Before you know it, that is the way the population is increased. So when new individuals are born into a particular population or particular environment, then it might lead to overcrowding. Then the next one is increase in food supply. When there is food supply that is in excess or that has increased in a particular location, the settlers, the occupants of the particular environment have more to feed on, so they are more comfortable, they can reproduce at alarming rates. Then increase in supply of food in an environment will also lead to immigration. That is, other species will want to come into that area for the food. So it will also lead to overcrowding. Then decrease in death rate. When nobody is dying, no organism is dying, they are just there and they keep reproducing. Death rate is not reducing, whereas birth rate is there. So it will also lead to overcrowding, because after a while, some organisms are meant to die so that at least there will be a balance. But when they are not dying, overcrowding will set in. Immigration is another factor. When there are organisms that are moving from one place into another community, you have 20 people immigrate or 20 organisms coming into a particular environment, then it will increase their number. So by the time immigration is continuous, then overcrowding will also set in. Lack of dispersal, that is in plants. When you have plants that their seed is just falling on in that ground. For instance, a plantation is an example. You know, the sucker of plantain, when you plant one, you discover that before you know it, there are other small ones that surround it. So it's the farmer that now comes to remove some of the suckers to go and plant another place. If the farmer does not do thinning, then the place will be overcrowded, because before you know it, those ones will start to go, they start competing, the place becomes overcrowded, then they start reproducing. So when there is no dispersal, that is, there is no spread, they are not spreading out, then overcrowding will set in. Then social habits will lead to overcrowding. Social habits in the sense that everybody is friendly, they are cautious, there is nobody that is competing, no cannibalism, no organism is killing the other, the environment is just suitable for all of them. Then it will lead to overcrowding, because they want to stay there and other organisms will want to come to join them. So it will lead to overcrowding. Then inadequate space. When the space is limited and they keep reproducing, that will lead to overcrowding. Then absence of predators. So when there are no predators that is attacking the organism, they are all comfortable there. You know, when predators come, they kill some of the organisms, so it will reduce the population. But when there is no predator, then overcrowding will also set in. What are the effects of overcrowding? When there is too much organism with a limited resource of food and space, what are the effects? First, you have a shortage of space. The space will not be enough for everybody. Then there is a shortage of food, because the food that is supposed to be consumed by 100 people now being consumed by 200 or 500 individuals will lead to shortage. So they will have to ration it. So there will be shortage of food. Then competition will set in. They will start to strive. Oh, I want to get there first. I want to get enough. So there will be competition as a result of overcrowding. Then antisocial behavior. When everywhere is flooded with organisms or even with individuals, then there will be incidents like fighting. Chicken begins to fight. Cock fighting with another cock, because the mating partners, there is overcrowding and just need to do one thing or the other. So they begin to fight. Cannibalism is also an antisocial behavior that can set in. They begin to kill one another because the place is too jam-packed. Then there will be spread of diseases. Look at it when you have too much individuals living in a room. Like you have 10, for example, in a small room that will just accommodate 2 people conveniently. Now have 10 people. You know, they breathe into one another, they have to jam each other, rub on one another. So unnecessary diseases will be spread among them. Then another effect of overcrowding is preying of each other. They start to attack each other, want to kill each other. Then another effect of overcrowding is that it will lead to death of the organism. Some organism will have to just die as a result of overcrowding. What are the adaptations to avoid overcrowding? What can organisms do, or what do they do to avoid overcrowding? First is territorial behavior. They create territory. Oh, we are the people that are here. You see, even in human beings, you discover that they will say, this land belongs to Chief Akeredolu of so land. Trespassers will be prosecuted. Something like that. So they create that we are the owners of this place. So organisms, no organism even do that. There's a way they do it, that when another organism is coming, he knows that is just intruding. So it will limit intruders from coming to the environment, thereby overcrowding will be prevented. Another way to avoid overcrowding is dispersal of seeds and fruit. So by the time their seeds are being dispersed abroad, so they go to other places to establish themselves, so overcrowding is prevented. Emigration will also avoid overcrowding. By the time we notice that, oh, this place is getting too small for us, and some organisms decide to move to another place to go and get a greener pasture, then overcrowding is prevented. Swarming is also a way to prevent overcrowding. Production of chemicals by plants. You know, some plants produces some chemicals that are released into the soil, that when an organism that will resent or scare away an organism. So that's a way to prevent overcrowding. Then production of canopies. By the time you have canopies, some plants, let's say Iroko tree for example, they get joined to one another and they form canopy. Lower organisms will not be able to come to germinate because there is no light that is penetrating to them. So they scare away those organisms and thereby prevent overcrowding. The next thing I'll be talking about is food shortage. Food shortage. In all habitats, producers provide the food that supports all consumers either directly or indirectly. So producers provide food that supports all the consumers. Like we have in a typical food chain, you have the producers at the base. So they are the ones that produce food for all the other consumers, either directly or indirectly. Sometimes the process is affected and food shortage results. So when the consumers are not able to produce enough food for them by whatever reason, then food shortage is setting. And what are the causes of food shortage? First is overpopulation or overcrowding, like I've been saying. Then poor storage facility. When food items are not kept when they are in abundance, they are not kept properly. So when those food items are no longer in season, then there will be shortage of the food. Then flood will wash away the soil nutrients. We not allow the crops to germinate very well. So you have a very, very small yield. It will also lead to food shortage, just as drought too. Drought is similar to flood. It will not allow the crop yield to do well. The environment is harsh and the crop are not doing well. The animals are not yielding their strength, so it will lead to food shortage. Pests, invasion by pests will also lead to food shortage. By the time the pests come to attack the farmland, making the plants or even the animals, making them sickly, opening them up to diseases, and which eventually may lead to their death, or it makes them unfit to be consumed. It will lead to food shortage. Diseases too is in that category. When disease affects the plants or the animal community and they begin to die or they become very harmful, then food shortage sets in. Bush burning. When the bush is burns down uncontrollably and farmland that is nutritious or that has food in it for consumption is burnt alongside, then it will lead to food shortage. Poor harvesting method, the harvesting is not done properly, so we don't get enough food from the farmland. We lead to food shortage. Infertility of the soil, when the soil has been used over and over without the nutrients being replenished, then food shortage will set in because the crop don't do well on an infertile soil. War, when there is killing and destruction and everything, then people don't have time to do their farming activities that will bring in food. Then food shortage will also set in.